Dear students, today I am here with the second poem of class 12th. The title of the poem is An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, written by Stephen Spender. In the days to come, you would be reading about Stephen Spender in the chapter Poets and Pancakes. In this poem, the poet describes the social inequality which are prevailing in the society, and through this poem he describes the conditions of the students of an elementary school which is situated in a slum area. So the poet wants to draw the attention of each and everyone who reads the poem towards these kids so that their life can be improved and they can get trained to become good citizens. So before I begin, I would just request you to please subscribe the channel if you are new to the channel, and if you like the content, do not forget to give a thumbs up. I would also throw light on the title of the poem, that is An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. Now, what do you understand by an elementary school? Well, an elementary school is basically the primary level school. So today we are going to talk about a classroom from that elementary school that is up to the primary level, and this school is situated in a slum. So we all know that the condition of a slum is not so good, so the infrastructure of the school is also not up to the mark. So this poem is divided into 4 stanzas, and the first stanza goes like this. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces like rootless weeds. The hair was torn round their pallor. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky ire of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in a tree room. Other than this. So here we see that the poet Stephen Spender visits a school in a slum area, and he's shocked to notice the measurable conditions of children studying there. Even the condition of the school was pitiable. Then he goes on depicting the picture of these children in vivid imagery, contrasting the rich world outside their slum. He says, these children are far, far away from the gusty waves, from the lap of nature, from the enjoyment of nature. By gusty waves, the poet symbolizes the bright, energetic side of life that is so lively and full of enjoyment. The word gusty means blowing strongly, but the poor children of the slum are far away from this bright, hopeful life of rich world that is situated outside their slum. In contrast, the slum children live a life of hopelessness. Their face is unkempt and dirty. Their hair is untidy, scattered around their pale faces. These children are compared to rootless weeds because weeds are unwanted wild plants that grow in the paddy fields. So these weeds are called rootless because they are not welcomed by us. And these children of slum are also like these weeds. They are unwelcomed and unwanted by the rich world. They are pale because of malnutrition and unhealthy lifestyle. The poet perfectly compares the insecure life of the weeds to the insecure life of the slum children. Then the poet goes on describing the children present in the class. As we read, we'll see that the poet has introduced 4 students of that class to us in this particular stanza. So first, he talks about a girl who is tall and is sitting with her head bowed down. The poet perhaps tries to present the depressed girl with bowed down head because she was overloaded and overburdened with the difficulties and responsibilities of life. So she's exhausted and tired. She can't even sit straight because of the burden that she has. Then he mentions another boy, and he is very light-weighted, just like a paper. And because he is so malnutritioned that his eyes seem like rat, small and scared, and they're scared with the world outside. So this boy is very weak, and it seems as if he is in search of something, maybe food, shelter, or better life, that he can't get there. Then the poet talks about a boy who's reciting a lesson from his book, and he has a disease of twisted bones. Perhaps he's affected with some genetic disease that got it from his father. So his growth is stunted, means he is underdeveloped. And at the same time, he calls him the unlucky ayah because unlike other children, he got nothing from his parents except for poverty, struggle, and the genetic disease that is carried on generation to generation. The poet also says that there is a boy who's there present in that BIM class, but unlike the other children, he lives in hope and dream. He dreams of squirrel game in trees, he dreams of nature, life and energy. And squirrel games here represent nature and life outside that classroom. This unnoticed boy represents a ray of hope and life in that dark and dull classroom. If we talk about the literary devices that the poet has used in this particular stanza, the first literary device that the poet has used is repetition. You can see it in the words far, far from. So the word far has been repeated here. Then the poet has used simile, where the children are compared with rootless weeds. And then the poet has also used metaphor when he's comparing a boy to the paper in the phrase paper seeming boy. Rhyme scheme, let me tell you, there is no rhyme scheme used in the poem, so this poem has been written in free verse. Let's now come to stanza 2. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities, belled flowery Tyrole's valley, open-handed map, awarding the world its world. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their futures painted with a fog, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes and stars of words. So here we see the unpleasant walls of the classroom which are decorated with the donations and picture of Shakespeare. The walls are called unpleasant because they are off-white in color and show the decayed life of the slum. And the picture of the Shakespeare on the wall suggests the literate world outside. As we know, we are talking about an elementary school, so there this picture of Shakespeare has no sense because in elementary school or the primary level school, Shakespeare is not introduced. Then other pictures that hung on the wall include a picture of a clear sky at dawn, flowery valley of Austria, along with the dome of an ancient civilization which represents hope, enjoyment of nature's beauty and progress of human civilization. The poet also says the rich people pretend to be generous to these people by donating such things to them, but in reality there is no relevance of these things to the world of slum. The children of the slum are limited to the world of their window, to the world they see through the windows of the school classroom. Their future is foggy, uncertain, dull and bleak. They are confined to the narrow streets of the slum enclosed by the polluted sky. They are miles away from the rivers and seas that indicate the adventure and enjoyment of nature. And they are also far from wisdom that can empower their future. We also see that there is an image of a world map in the room, but for these children, the map of the world is irrelevant because the world in which they live is different from the world that is shown in the map. So we see that the literary devices that the poet has used here are metaphor, where the walls are compared to sour cream. The poet says sour cream walls. So here you see that the walls are described to be dull as sour cream. Then the future of the kids is described as limited with the usage of narrow streets sealed with a lead sky. So here also the poet has used metaphor. Then we have assonance, belled, flowery, Tyrole's valley. So here the sound of E is being repeated, and then allusion. That is reference to well-known person or place. So here Shakespeare's head and Tyrole's valley has been introduced. So here the poet has used allusion. Then the repetition again has been used here with the word far being repeated. Then we come to the third stanza that says, surely Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal for lives that slyly turn in their crumpled holes from fog to endless nights. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel with mended glass like bottle bits on stones. All of their time and space are foggy slum, so blot their maps with slums as big as doom. Here we see that the poet calls Shakespeare wicked because Shakespeare through his writing enlightened whole world. But unfortunately for these children, there is no hope of entering into that enlightened world. So the poet calls Shakespeare to be wicked. He also calls the map a bad example because that map does not hold any place for these slum children. They can just aspire to be there but cannot afford to live there. There is no means to go to that world. They are just cruel temptations for these children. They may steal or commit crime to achieve them. So they are called bad examples. These children's lives are confined to the narrow holes of that dark slum. Even their fate conspire them to be imprisoned there. They live lives of uncertainty since morning to night, and their condition turns from bad to worst. The lives of these children are compared to the slag heap because they are like wastage of a refined, educated society that is dumped in garbage. Explaining their undernourished condition, the poet says their bones peep through their skin. That is, they are so skinny because of malnutrition that we can count their bones through their skin. They use spectacles not for luxury but because it's their necessity. They use mended glasses, cracked and steel framed, because they cannot afford to buy brand new spectacles. So they manage with the repaired ones. They live a life of hell confined to their uncertain, unhealthy, polluted slum. They are like blot or stain in the progress of civilized life. As these slums are getting bigger, here the poet tries to explain that these kids have to face so many hardships in their lives. As these slums are getting bigger, they will destroy the future of these children, and it is very difficult for such kids to escape from them. The literary devices that the poet has used here are, first of all, metaphor, where the poet says cramped holes. So the homes of these children are compared to small holes. Then the poet has used simile, where he says like bottle bits on stone. So he's talking about the repaired spectacles here. And then the poet has used alliteration in the phrase from fog, where the sound of F is being repeated. The fourth stanza goes like this: unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs break open till they break the town and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands and let their tongues run naked into books, the white and green leaves open, history theirs whose language is the sun. So here, what do we see? So we see there is no coordination between the civilized world and the world of children in the school in a slum. So poet asked people from all sphere of life, governor, inspector, teacher and visitor, to come forward and educate these children so that they can fill the gap. These people must consider the lives of these children as their lives. Only then there can be a change. The slum is an enclosed space like internal part of a grave that is dark and suffocating. So the poet urged these people to break through the miserable and hopeless condition of these slum children and let them see green fields. They are asked to expose the slum children to nature and hope, where they can breathe in open air that is unlimited, just like rest of the world. He also asks them to educate and let open and go wild through pages of wisdom so that they can master them. He says, one who can read and write, only he creates history. Here, the poet wishes to break all kinds of social bonding and inequality to create a better world. So the poet has used metaphor here, wherein he says the white green leaves open. So he's talking about the books in nature expressed in form of white and green leaves, and then the poet uses anaphora, that is the words are repeated in two consecutive lines. So we have the word run being repeated, run azure, run naked, right? So anaphora has been used here. Then the poet has also used simile, wherein he says like catacomb. So he is comparing the lives of these children to be living in a catacomb. And then yes, repetition has been used with the word break or break, where emphasis is laid on the importance of helping these children break out of their confinement. So we see that this poem ends on a note of positivity, and the poet wants opportunities to be available to these children. That's all for today. In case of any doubts or queries, you can drop us a message on Instagram, or you can also drop them in the comment section below. I'll revert to them as soon as possible. See you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.